Dean Martin challenged the mob's power. What he did for a stunt man made John Wayne acknowledge his bravery. The king of cool in the shadow of Sin City. In the neon-drenched nights of 1950s Las Vegas, where the desert winds carried whispers of fortune and folly, Dean Martin was the undisputed king. Born Dino Paul Crocetti in 1917 to Italian immigrants in Steubenville, Ohio, Dean had risen from steel mill worker and amateur boxer to crooner extraordinaire. His voice, smooth as aged bourbon, and his laid-back charm made him a staple in smoky supper clubs. By the mid-1950s, he'd partnered with Jerry Lewis in a comedy duo that packed theaters, but it was the Rat Pack, alongside Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., and Joey Bishop, that cemented his legend. Vegas was their playground, the Sands Hotel their throne room, where mobsters rubbed elbows with movie stars under the watchful eyes of the FBI. Dean embodied effortless cool, a cigarette perpetually dangling from his lips, a martini in hand, and a quip ready to defuse any tension. But beneath the surface, he navigated treacherous waters. The entertainment industry, especially in Nevada, was entwined with the mafia. Figures like Mo Dalitz and the Chicago outfit controlled casinos, skimming profits and demanding protection from performers. Dean, with his Italian heritage, was no stranger to these shadows, his family ties traced back to bootleggers during Prohibition. Yet, he played the game smart, charming the bosses while keeping his distance. It was 1958 when Dean first crossed paths with Tommy the Bull Russo, a stuntman whose life would test the limits of that charm. Tommy, a rugged 35-year-old from Brooklyn, had traded factory work for Hollywood's dangerous underbelly. With a square jaw scarred from countless falls and a laugh that boomed like thunder, he specialized in westerns, leaping from galloping horses, tumbling down rocky cliffs, and taking bullet hits that left lesser men broken. His break came doubling for John Wayne in The Searchers, but Vegas gigs paid better, high-wire acts at the Flamingo, pyrotechnic stunts for casino openings. Dean met Tommy during a Rat Pack show at the Sands. The performance was electric, Dean crooning, "That's Amore," while Sinatra bantered with the crowd. Backstage, amid the haze of Cuban cigars, Tommy approached, nursing a bandaged arm from a recent fall. "Mr. Martin, that was gold," he said, his Brooklyn accent thick. Dean, ever gracious, poured him a drink. "Call me Dino. What brings a tough guy like you to this circus?" Tommy grinned. "Paying the bills. Mobs got the town wired, stunts for their parties, no questions asked." Their bond formed over shared stories, Dean's Ohio brawls, Tommy's wartime exploits in the Pacific. Tommy was no stranger to danger, he'd lost a brother to a mob hit back east. Dean saw a kindred spirit, a working-class survivor in a world of illusions. Soon, Tommy became a fixture in Dean's circle, handling stunts for Rat Pack films like Ocean's 11. Off-duty, they'd golf at the Desert Inn or shoot craps at the dunes, Dean's easy demeanor drawing Tommy out of his shell. But Vegas's undercurrents ran deep. The mob, led by figures like Bugsy Siegel's successors, enforced loyalty with iron fists. Performers who stepped out of line faced blacklisting or worse. Dean knew the score, Sinatra had clashed with them over scheduling, earning veiled threats. Tommy, however, was expendable, a stuntman whose injuries were just part of the job. When Tommy mentioned a side gig rigging explosives for a mob-backed casino heist simulation, Dean waved it off. "Stay sharp, pal. These guys don't play." As 1959 dawned, Dean's star soared. He starred in Rio Bravo with John Wayne, trading barbs on set while perfecting his cowboy drawl. Wayne, the Duke himself, a towering symbol of American grit, respected Dean's talent but saw through the playboy facade. "You're more than a singer, Dino," Wayne rumbled during a break. "Got that fighter's fire." Dean chuckled, but Tommy's warnings lingered. The mob's grip tightened, rumors swirled of shakedowns on performers who fraternized too freely. Little did Dean know, Tommy's entanglement with the mob would soon force a reckoning, pulling the crooner into a confrontation that could shatter his world. If Dean's effortless cool in the face of Vegas intrigue has you hooked, hit that like button. It's a quick way to show support and help more stories like this reach fans. By 1960, Las Vegas pulsed with post-war prosperity, its strip a glittering artery feeding the mob's empire. Dean Martin, now 43 and at the peak of his fame, balanced Hollywood commitments with Vegas residencies. His marriage to Jean Beager strained under the spotlight, but work was his anchor. Ocean's 11, the Rat Pack's caper classic, wrapped filming, with Tommy Russo coordinating the explosive vault scene, a controlled blast that left the set smelling of cordite. Tommy's expertise earned him a nod from director Louis Milestone, "You're the real hero here, Russo." Offset, Tommy's life darkened. Pressed by low-level mob enforcers from the Genovese family, he ran errands, smuggling cash through casino vents, staging accidents to intimidate rival acts. "It's just setups, Dino," Tommy confided one night at the Sands Copa Room Bar after Dean's set. Dean, sipping his signature Applejack, frowned. "Just? These wise guys own the town. One slip, and you're swimming with the fishes in Lake Mead." Tommy shrugged, his eyes weary. "Bills don't pay themselves. Got a kid sister in Brooklyn counting on me." Dean's concern deepened. He knew the mob's reach. Sinatra's mother had been roughed up years earlier, a warning to toe the line. Dean pulled strings, slipping Tommy extra work on his tours, riding shotgun on cross-country flights, doubling for fight scenes in upcoming westerns. In gratitude, Tommy shared laughs, mimicking Wayne's drawl, "Yeehaw, Pilgrim." Dean, in turn, introduced him to stars like Angie Dickinson, who teased Tommy's Brooklyn bravado. Tensions escalated in spring 1961. During a high-stakes poker game at the Desert Inn, Mob Haven, Tommy overheard a plot. The bosses, irked by federal heat from the Kefauver hearings, planned to disappear a whistleblower, a casino auditor skimming for the feds. Tommy's role? Rig a stunt gone wrong, a faulty harness during a show, making it look like negligence. Refusal meant his own accident. Panicked, he confided in Dean over a late-night drive along the strip. "Dino, they're using me as muscle. If I bail, they come for my family." Dean's jaw tightened, his usual nonchalance cracking. "No one's touching you on my watch." He advised Tommy to lay low, offering his Palm Springs ranch as a hideout. But loyalty bound Tommy, he couldn't abandon his sister without funds. Dean, drawing on his Italian roots, reached out discreetly to old Steubenville contacts, legit businessmen with mob ties, for leverage. "Keep the kid out of it," he urged one associate. The reply was ominous: "Martin's got pull, but not that much. Back off." The crisis peaked during Dean's July residency at the Sands. Tommy, assigned to a pyrotechnic display for the 4th of July extravaganza, tampered with the rigging as ordered. But conscience struck. Mid-setup, he sabotaged it subtly, alerting the auditor anonymously. The mob caught wind, through a planted informant, and cornered Tommy backstage post-Dean's show. "You crossed us, bull," snarled enforcer Vinny the Knife Moretti, flashing a switchblade. A scuffle ensued. Tommy took a slash to the arm, fighting back with stunt-honed fists. Dean, fresh from the stage in his tux, burst in on the chaos, alerted by a stagehand. "Enough," he roared, positioning himself between Tommy and the thugs. Sinatra, nearby, backed him up, but Dean's presence halted the violence. "This man's under my protection. Touch him, you touch me." The enforcers backed off, muttering about the singer's balls, but the threat lingered. Tommy, bleeding, owed his life to Dean's intervention. Word spread through Vegas' underbelly. Dean had challenged the mob's power, not with guns, but with star power and unyielding loyalty. Tommy, patched up in a private clinic, gripped Dean's hand. "You saved me, Dino. Owe you everything." Dean waved it off. "Family's family. Now, let's get you straight." Yet, repercussions brewed. The mob blacklisted Tommy from Vegas gigs, forcing him to Hollywood scraps. Dean vowed to help, but the stuntman's shadow lengthened, testing the crooner's resolve. The high-stakes drama between Dean and the mob is intensifying. What do you think Tommy should do next to protect his family? Drop a comment with your ideas. Your thoughts fuel the conversation. Relocating to Hollywood in late 1961 offered temporary respite, but the mob's tentacles stretched westward. Dean, starring in Sergeants 3, a Rat Pack Western spoof, immersed in production, his off-screen life a whirlwind of parties and piloting his own plane. Tommy, blackballed from Vegas, scraped by as a grip on low-budget oters, his arm scar a constant reminder. "Feels like yesterday's news," he joked to Dean during a lunch at Musso and Frank's, the historic grill a haven for stars. Dean's aid was steadfast. He lobbied directors for Tommy's stunts, landing him a spot on The Silencers, a Matt Helm spy flick where Dean played the suave agent. Tommy coordinated car chases and gadget explosions, his expertise shining. "You're a wizard, Bull," Dean quipped on set, watching Tommy orchestrate a fiery barrel roll. But whispers followed, mob informants in the unions, eyes on every payroll. John Wayne entered the fray unexpectedly. The Duke, fresh from the Comancheros, visited the Silencers set, a favor to producer Irving Allen. Towering at 6 feet 4 inches, Wayne's presence commanded silence. Dean greeted him with a handshake and a joke. "Duke, you here to steal my thunder?" Wayne boomed a laugh. "Nah, Dino, just checking on you city boys." Spotting Tommy rigging a stunt wire, Wayne pulled Dean aside. "That fella, Russo? Heard he's got heat from the wise guys. You involved?" Dean nodded warily. Wayne, no stranger to tough guy roles, had his own brushes with organized crime during wartime fundraisers. "Mob's poison," Wayne growled. "Stood up to M once in a card game, nearly got my hat shot off." Dean confided the backstory, praising Tommy's loyalty. Wayne's eyes narrowed. Brave kid. But bravery without backup's suicide. The turning point came during a brutal winter shoot in the San Fernando Valley. Tommy, doubling for a henchman in a warehouse brawl, faced sabotage, frayed ropes from mob-planted saboteurs. Mid-fall from a catwalk, simulating a 20-foot drop, the line snapped. Tommy twisted mid-air, grabbing a beam to halt his plummet, but crashed hard, shattering his leg and ribs. Chaos erupted, paramedics rushed him to Cedars-Sinai. Dean, on location nearby, arrived at the hospital in a fury. "Who rigged that?" he demanded of the crew. Fingers pointed to a union rigger with Chicago ties. Enraged, Dean bypassed protocol, calling his lawyer and Sinatra's connections to pressure the studio for an investigation. But the mob struck back, anonymous threats to Dean's family, Jean and their 7 kids, via harassing calls and slashed tires at their Beverly Hills home. Undeterred, Dean escalated. He met Wayne at the Actors Yacht Club in Newport Beach, the ocean breeze carrying salt and resolve. Duke, Tommy's fighting for his life, literally. Mob's gunning for him because of me. Wayne, nursing a scotch, leaned in. Then fight smarter. Use the light, expose M without naming names. Inspired, Dean orchestrated a subtle counter, leaking the sabotage story to Hedda Hopper's column, framing it as Hollywood hazards with veiled mob hints. Public outcry forced studio oversight, clearing Tommy's name. As Tommy recovered, bandaged in traction, Dean visited daily, smuggling in contraband cigars. You pulled through, Bull. Now, let's end this. Wayne sent flowers and a note, hang tough, son. Real men face the fire. The Duke's acknowledgement bolstered Tommy, but Dean knew the battle was far from over. The mob's power loomed, demanding a final stand. Dean's loyalty to Tommy amid Hollywood's dangers is inspiring. How far would you go to protect a friend? Subscribe for more chapters and exclusive stories that uncover the real grit behind the glamour. By 1963, the feud reignited as Dean returned to Vegas for a blockbuster residency at the Riviera. The city had changed, federal probes intensified post-Appalachian meeting, but the mob clung to power. Tommy, limping from his injuries but stubborn, insisted on joining as Dean's personal stunt coordinator for a live spectacle, a Rat Pack extravaganza with pyrotechnics and aerial drops. Can't sit idle, Dino, he said, masking pain with grit. Dean relented, hiring extra security, ex-cops loyal to Sinatra. The mob, sensing vulnerability, upped the ante. Enforcer Moretti cornered Tommy in a casino alley, flanked by goons. Tell Martin to back off, or your sister's next. Tommy reported it immediately. Dean's response was swift. He confronted the Riviera's management, mob-linked, demanding protection. Refused, he pulled the plug on the show, citing technical issues. The cancellation rocked Vegas. Headlines screamed Rat Pack rift, Dean Martin walks out. Behind scenes, Dean mobilized. With Sinatra's blessing, he met a neutral mob elder, Johnny Rosselli, at a discreet Palm Springs golf course. Rosselli, a Hollywood fixer with ties to both sides, heard Dean out. Dino, your family, Italian blood. But crossing the outfit? Suicide. Dean, cool as ever, laid it bare. Tommy's like a brother. Call off the dogs, or the feds get every detail, from the sand skim to the sabotage. It was a bluff, but Dean's clout, bolstered by Rat Pack solidarity, gave it teeth. Meanwhile, Tommy faced his own trial. Moretti ambushed him during a rehearsal, a knife fight ensuing atop a stunt scaffold. Tommy, drawing on Brooklyn street smarts, disarmed the thug but took a gut wound. Dean, arriving post-golf, found the scene, bloodied scaffold, groaning enforcer, and Tommy clutching his side. You crazy bastard, Dean muttered, calling for help. Police arrived, tipped by Dean's team, arresting Moretti on assault charges. The incident exploded. FBI agents, monitoring mob activities, subpoenaed Dean as a witness. In a closed hearing, he testified vaguely, protecting Tommy, but his stance sent shockwaves. The mob, humiliated, backed down. Rosselli brokered a truce, exiling Moretti to Chicago. Tommy's sister received anonymous relocation funds, courtesy of Dean's discreet donations. John Wayne, filming McLintock, nearby, caught wind via industry buzz. He invited Dean and Tommy to his set in Arizona, a gesture of respect. Over steaks at a dude ranch, Wayne raised a glass. Heard about Vegas, Dino? Standing up to those bastards for a stuntman? That's bravery, real Duke stuff. Tommy, still bandaged, blushed. Just doing my job, Mr. Wayne. Wayne clapped his back. Nah, son. Martin's the hero. Acknowledging that takes guts. Dean's act rippled, unions reformed stunt safety, federal scrutiny tightened on Vegas. But the toll weighed heavy, strained marriage, sleepless nights. Tommy, forever grateful, vowed, "You challenged the kings for me, Dino. I'll never forget." The Vegas showdown delivers edge-of-your-seat action. What's your favorite Rat Pack moment from history? Like this chapter if it captured the thrill, and let's keep the momentum going. The aftermath of 1963 reshaped lives in subtle, profound ways. Dean Martin, unscathed publicly but scarred inwardly, channeled the ordeal into his art. His 1964 album Dream with Dean carried a melancholic undercurrent, hits like Everybody Loves Somebody, masking the loneliness of his stand. The Rat Pack endured, but Dean's Vegas returns came with ironclad security, a quiet victory over the mob's shadow. His divorce from Jean in 1968, though unrelated, amplified his introspection. He remarried in 1973 to Catherine Hahn, seeking stability amid fame's chaos. Tommy Russo thrived in the wake. Cleared of blacklisting, he became a sought-after stunt coordinator, working on epics like The Great Escape. His leg healed crooked, but spirit unbroken, he married his longtime girl in 1965, starting a family in the San Fernando Valley. Dean stood as best man, toasting to second chances and brothers in arms. Tommy's career peaked, doubling for stars like Steve McQueen, but he credited Dean, "Without him, I'd be a ghost in the desert." John Wayne's acknowledgement lingered as a badge of honor. In a 1965 Playboy interview, the Duke name-dropped Dean. "Martin's got more courage than half the cowboys I know, faced down the mob for a friend. That's American." Their friendship deepened. Wayne cast Dean in cameos, and Dean guested on Wayne's roasts. When Wayne battled cancer in the 1970s, Dean visited, sharing laughs and scotch. "You called my bravery, Duke," Dean said softly. "Yours got us through wars." Wayne's 1979 death hit hard, but his words immortalized Dean's deed. The mob's power waned federally. The 1960s saw indictments, the 1970s corporate takeovers of casinos. Dean's stand, though small, contributed to the shift, testimony inspired by his resolve aided RICO prosecutions. In retirement, Dean reflected in rare interviews, his voice gravelly, "Wasn't heroism, just right from wrong. Tommy deserved better." Tommy, retiring in the 1980s, wrote a memoir, Falling for the Stars, dedicating it to Dean. He challenged empires for a stuntman. That's the real show. Dean, passing in 1995 from respiratory failure, left a legacy of cool under fire, father, performer, protector. This tale, woven from history's threads, celebrates quiet bravery in Tinseltown's glare. Dean Martin's stand reminds us, true power defies the shadows, earning nods from legends like Wayne.